Hello, everybody. At this time, we are talking about minimum prices. Minimum prices, also known as price floors, are government imposed price controls that set the lowest legal price at which a good or service can be sold. This price is usually set above the equilibrium price, or the point where supply meets demand in a free market. The goal is often to protect producers from prices that are deemed too low and ensure that they can cover their costs of production, thus earning a reasonable income. And then some reasons for governments to impose minimum prices include: the first, protecting producers. A minimum price can ensure that producers receive a certain income level, particularly in sectors where production costs are high or market fluctuations may lead to unstable incomes. Agricultural products, for example, often have minimum prices to protect farmers. And then, second, reducing consumption. In some cases, minimum prices may be used to discourage consumptions of certain goods or services, such as tobacco or gasoline. Higher prices can lead to lower demand, helping to address negative externalities associated with their consumption. And then third, encouraging production. By guaranteeing a higher price, a minimum price can provide an incentive for producers to increase production, which may be essential for food security or other strategic sectors. And then, fourth, correcting market failures. Minimum prices can help address market failures, such as in the case of monopoly power, where a single firm can set prices significantly above the competitive level. And then we move to effect of minimum prices on producers and consumers. The first, the effect of minimum prices on producers is ambiguous, and producers may be better off, no different, or worse off as a result of the measure. Second, the effect of a minimum prices on consumers is more straightforward. Consumers never gain from the measure. They may be worse off or no different. And then what can happen as a result of a minimum prices? The first, excess supply. As we have already seen, a binding minimum price raises the price of a good above the equilibrium. This leads to a reduction in demand and an increase in supply. Quantity supplied will exceed the quantity demanded, which leads to a surplus of goods in the market. And then, second, the emergence of black markets. Minimum prices can sometimes lead to black markets. Black markets are unauthorized or illegal means of buying and selling goods. Sellers and buyers who wish to circumvent the price floor may try to buy and sell in this manner. And then third, an overall reduction in consumer surplus. When a minimum price is implemented, consumers are harmed more than suppliers. Consumers who remain in the market are lose the entire benefit of purchasing the good. In other words, total consumer surplus falls because of that weight loss and because a portion of the consumer surplus is reallocated to the producers. And then we move to types of a minimum prices. There are a few different types of minimum prices. The first, binding minimum prices. This type of minimum prices is greater than the current market price equilibrium. With this type of minimum prices, commodity producers are better off if the higher price of the goods makes up for selling a lower quantity. Consumers, on the other hand, are worse off due to binding minimum prices since they have to pay more for a lower quantity of products. And then second, non-binding minimum prices. Non-binding minimum prices are the opposite. There are lower prices than the current market price equilibrium. Non-binding minimum prices don't normally affect markets outright or immediately. Both consumers and producers can be better off as a result of non-binding minimum prices since they act more as guidelines as opposed to market corrections. And then we move to real-world examples of minimum prices. The first, minimum wage laws. For workers, minimum wage laws can lift them out of the poverty and ensure they get fair pay. However, it also has some downsides. For instance, some employers might not be able to afford to pay everyone the higher wage. This might lead them to cut jobs, reduce hours, or not hire as many people. It is a balancing act between helping workers and keeping businesses running. And then second, agricultural minimum prices, a safety net for farmers. In farming, minimum prices helps farmers. If the price of crops like wheat or dairy drops too low, the government guarantees a minimum price so farmers don't lose money. While this helps keep farmers in business, it also means consumers might pay more for their food. The government's goal is to protect farmers from financial losses, but this can raise the cost of groceries for everyone else. And then third, different minimum wages around the world. Minimum wage amounts vary across regions and countries. And then what are the differences between minimum prices and price ceiling? The first, minimum prices is a price control method in which the price of any good is prevented from dropping below a certain level, while price ceiling is a mechanism of price control in which the price for any goods is prevented from rising above a definite level. And then second, the minimum prices create a surplus or excess of goods in the market, and price ceiling creates a goods shortage in the market. And then third, minimum price is effective when its price is above the equilibrium price, while price ceilings effective when its price is below the equilibrium price. And then fourth, one of the common examples of a minimum prices is minimum wages. And one of the common examples of a price ceiling is rent control. I think it is enough. Thanks for watching.